All right, well, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. This time we'll be covering esports, and I'm here with my gaming friend here, Andrew Munoz.
That's me. I am Andrew Munoz. Thank you for having me on the podcast again. I appreciate being here.
No problem. He's our gaming expert here around Lewis University. Andrew, so let's start talking about what is esports, and then if you want to give everyone just a little general background on what esports is and how it's been growing recently.
So, esports is electronic sports, otherwise known as people most notoriously will associate with professional video game playing as an actual sport. Last time I checked, it has rapidly become the second largest sport in the globe, second to soccer, which is the first.
Or football.
Or football, yes, in non-American or non-United States countries. It's primarily dominated by PC video games, League of Legends, Dota, and then you have your shooters like Fortnite, and then your first-person shooters as well, like Call of Duty.
Rainbow Six Siege.
Rainbow Six, those kinds of games, yeah. There are many brands, many teams involved. There are just as many leagues as you would have in like basketball or in MLB. You have contracts written up for professional sports players, the same way that you have contracts written up for these gamers. A lot of brand, a lot of endorsement power going on, a lot of money flowing through the system on this one. It's a pretty huge, fairly new industry that just took the world by storm, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I know from just being on YouTube, just watching videos on YouTube that, Call of Duty professionally has been being played for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, what is it, COD Champs? They win $1 million. It's $1 million prize pool.
Something like that. I'm not sure. I know that the money involved is
it's
intense,
massive.
though.
And then they split that obviously between the 4 team members, but still $1 million prize pool.
$1 million
Toward their team is incredible.
Mm-hmm. It's actually gone so large now that colleges are using it as a means of growing enrollment for the campuses. I know Rasmussen College in Chicago, they have an actual esports league where they will recruit players from online to come to their school so they can still earn their degree, as well as be a part of a competitive team and play for their school. And I think it's awesome. I know there's an esports club here on campus as well. It's got something like 65 members, I believe, which is pretty top tier for a new club. I think it just goes to show you, there's a lot of interest in this now from our generation, across the board.
Definitely. I mean, I know Lewis is going to be where Fitzpatrick Hall is. They're going to create the new esports arena, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And some people call it a computer lab, but they're calling it an esports arena. To develop our esports program, Robert Morris is giving full full scholarship for esports.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're one of the first colleges, or were one of the first colleges to introduce that to their program. And I'm not sure exactly what games. I know Call of Duty is one, and I think World of Warcraft is another one, but I don't know what games are being played at the college level right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's on the up and come for sure. With Fortnite blowing up past year and a half or two, there's really been another thing with the Fortnite World Cup winner Vuga was like 16, won like $1.5 million.
Yeah,
himself.
I think it was like 13, wasn't he, or something like that? Like some
crazy
young kid
he's a young
just
kid.
wins like some multi-million-dollar show prize just for
Right.
being the best at a video game.
Right, which no one had ever seen before.
No, and it's definitely, when I was a kid, growing up, it was, I played video games since like 5th grade, even before then a little bit. But I was told by like my parents or by my mom, I should say, that video games, it's a waste of time. You shouldn't play them, or you should actually like focus more on schooling, or read a book, or go outside, or whatever. And now you see these kids who were my age now, when I was back then, earning multi-million-dollar prizes.
Right. But I mean, when we grew up,
don't listen to your parents' kids, because they are wrong. They're wrong half the time.
But when we grew up too, we weren't thinking about, if I play video games a lot, I can do something with that as a career path.
Mm-mm.
When we were growing up, we strictly played video games for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in trouble a lot from playing video games. My mom would always tell me, get off Call of Duty, get off Call of Duty. It was, something that I was always being told, but it's something that kids like to do, and then they get good at it, and then all of a sudden they can do something with it now. and giving them that path, I think, is awesome. What do you think about people saying that it doesn't promote being active and athletic and physical fitness kind of thing?
I think the same. I think, yeah, to some competitive sports there's a level of athleticism and fitness that goes into it, and training and actual physical body movement. But you also have to think about different games that include, or different sports that include strategizing. Football, soccer, those are strategy games. You're playing the other opponent, you have to maneuver around them. The same way these video games are. You have to work with a team, strategize against your opponents, come up with a game plan. Yeah, they wear jerseys or whatever, they're not sweating into them, whatever, but that doesn't mean that they're not playing something competitively, strategically against somebody else or as a team for a goal.
Right.
They're doing the same concept. And even though, have you ever, do you spend any time on Netflix? I don't know. Do you?
I don't have Netflix, but I have spent time on Netflix.
Okay. There's a Netflix original series called Explained, and one of their episodes is about esports, and they actually go into a full depth breakdown of esports entirely, and they talk about how they compare it to other sports the way we're talking about it now. Like, people who say, it's not really a sport. You're not sweating. You're not doing anything physically engaging or whatever. Which, yeah, may be true. Yeah, I'm just sitting there, hitting keys or mashing buttons or whatever.
Right.
But they talk a lot about the different leagues in esports too. The same way that, as I said before, different physical sports have different leagues, different teams. The same way that esports have different leagues and different teams. These multi-million-dollar contracts to go into them, and things that other people may not think about is production. You have to rent out huge venues to support tens of thousands of people to come and watch. Like, you have fans who are engaged, which is just like other sports do. I think the same thing, like people say mostly about like NASCAR, you're not physically engaged. Well, I mean, you kind of are driving a car. It's a little different, but people have that same argument.
Right.
You're not doing anything that's terribly physically demanding or engaging.
Correct. Yeah. No, I think we both agree that's a positive thing to be introducing. Because what about those kids that maybe they're not, no matter how hard they try, they're not the most athletic. Things don't click to them in sports, and this opens up a lot of avenues, I think, for kids growing up too. I think there still is a little bit of, I know when I play Call of Duty, at least in the pregame lobbies, there's a lot of like hate speech and bullying and whatnot that goes on in there.
There is a level of toxicity, yes.
Yeah, which I would like to see cleaned up. I don't know how. That's just, people need to be nicer on the internet, because I think that behind a screen there, no one knows who they are or whatnot, and they can say whatever they want, but...
But even so, even in these leagues, there's rule books that have been written out. There's full-fledged rule books that say, aggressive speech while in-game or while engaged in competitive matches is prohibited. You get banned, you get fined, just the same way you would in any other sport, like the NFL or the NBA. You get fined and you get banned or suspended.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. It definitely promotes a sense of friendly competition, while also there's obviously aggressive and competitive competition as well.
Right.
But I think esports as a whole is wrapping things up is kind of a good way for, you talk about these kids who weren't really, they may not have been the most athletic or they may not have been the most outgoing, but it's definitely an avenue or an outlet for people of all colors and races and generations and genders and identifications to come together and play the same game and to do something together.
Right.
The same way other sports like soccer have done or has done for hundreds of years in many different cultures around the world.
Right. No, there's a huge community with esports, and I think that's ultimately what's going to drive it to be what everyone's projecting it to be.
Right.
I'm super excited to see it come into colleges, though. I think that's very important for colleges and universities to have that option, because these kids are smart kids, and they're more than capable of going to college, and if you can get a little bit of a scholarship discount for playing some video games, and especially if they're doing what they love and they're great at it, then more power to them. And so I'm glad that we had this discussion and we agree that this is a positive avenue for people to be taking going forward. and hopefully more colleges catch on to this trend and start to bring esports into their community. I think
Right.
it'd be a very good to see the NCAA take in esports, in my personal opinion.
Oh, I think it'd be awesome. And like I said, promoting enrollment, getting more students to come to your school because you offer more for them. It's awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that Lewis has sort of started to welcome it a little bit. It'll be interesting to see where we go from there. I think to see where, especially this college campus and colleges in general, how far they'll take it.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, thank you for coming on again. I know it was a little shorter podcast this time, but it was a very good discussion about esports.
It was good. Thank you for having me.
Learned a
Thank
lot.
you. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
Take care.